Welcome to day one of the test match that didn't last very long. Lasted 13 overs is what I want to say.
Yeah.
13 overs. Yeah, very nice. But yeah, we were talking about it being an exciting day of test cricket.
Unfortunately, it was barely a day of test cricket.
Yeah, barely a session.
Barely a session.
And
yeah.
then it stopped raining, started raining. Thank you so much for joining. I mean, even though there wasn't much cricket to talk about, also why we will keep this very, very short, also why we don't have the normal segments like we do. Hi Rishi, hello. Hi Srikanth, you're here. Takshil, hi. Neeraj, hi. Again, yeah, thank you for joining us. We would have done this at 1:30 usually if the day did go on as per timings. And sessions.
Yeah.
Hey Srikanth, hey fake name cry. World Cup kiddies.
Such an intense,
Thrilling day of test cricket. Indeed. I mean, there are a couple of things to talk about. There are a few interesting things to talk about and get into, which we will.
Yeah.
But again, you guys already know what we do, but for the sake of introduction, and if anyone's coming here for the first time, we usually have a lot of segments. If there is a full day of test cricket, we talk about positives for the day, negatives for the day, what India should do better tomorrow, and all of that. We don't have all of that today, and we take questions from your end, obviously. But today we only have this, and we'll take questions from you guys. We will talk about a few things before we get on with it. But
yeah, Srikanth says
yes,
he predicted that we'll be 5 minutes late. Srikanth, good.
Yeah,
it's a good sign.
Yes, Skypler, interesting channel. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, we do have few things to talk about, which we will after we take questions. I mean, do you want to go over the scorecard?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much on the scorecard. Australia 28 for 0 in about 13ish overs, and then rain played spoil sport. Day's play has been called off.
Yes.
And I think both Khawaja and McSweeney look pretty decent out there.
Yeah. It's a good batting wicket. There were two changes made to the Indian team. Jadeja comes in place of Ashwin. Yeah. Akash Deep comes in place of Harshit Rana, something we talked about extensively yesterday on our live. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's go from the stands, and if you have any questions, we will talk about that. If not, we shall go to what India should do tomorrow, and then just touch upon a couple of selections. Yeah. Talking about Akash Deep and all of that. Gargi says Bumrah pace is decreasing, something to worry about. I don't necessarily think so. He doesn't really bowl express pace unless he needs to.
Yeah. I think there's one thing that fast bowlers do. They don't always come at you with 100%
even
pace.
If it's the first over of
even if it's the first over of the test match. You generally want to save your energy for important moments in the game or important spells. And I think because of the fact that the weather was such today morning, Jasprit Bumrah might have been taking it maybe a tad easy.
Also obviously, because he was hoping for a lot more swing.
Yeah, maybe that's barely anything in the pitch to work with.
Yeah,
which was.
Takshil asks, how will the pitch change over the days due to rain? Will it become better for batters in the fourth innings? Not necessarily.
Probably not. Yeah, I think because of how. There is going to be forecast for rain for the next couple of days also.
For tomorrow and day after seems all right. Day 4 and 5 seems heavy rains again.
So because of the moisture, it is going to affect. First of all, because there's going to be very less cricket played, the pitch is going to stay intact under the cover, so it's going to be fresh. There's going to be grass that'll come up little bit. Grass, so don't think the pitch should do anything crazy. Yeah.
Right, Ashutosh says the Australian openers looked good out there. This is a bit of concern, which is something we did want to touch upon. India won the toss, chose to bowl first, so a lot of people were surprised by this, but a lot of people also weren't because of the conditions and everything. I mean, the pitch in the 13 overs looked absolute solid, looked like a batting track, looked like a pitch Australians would dominate on. I didn't think the Indian fast bowlers bowled all that badly. Bumrah was finding a bit tough to find his line and length.
Bumrah was straying down the leg side occasionally to Khawaja.
He did get the odd outside edge, which didn't carry to the slips. He did beat also Khawaja from the on the outside edge, which was fine. I thought Siraj bowled well. Akash Deep, when he started off, did exceptionally well. What a start!
Looked pretty solid.
Yeah, exactly. Siraj, I mean, there were a lot of post-match analysis of the 13 overs of talking about how India could have bowled a lot more fuller, because the odd ball that Akash did bowl full, he did get the ball to swing, except there wasn't much swing on offer.
Not much on offer, yeah.
So I don't think the bowling, they should have bowled a little more full, is warranted. I honestly thought they did fine. Right. Will the pitch be better on the last and second last day because of the moisture? So Gabba, I feel like, from what they were talking about, they have a great drainage system,
right?
Which I want to compare to like a Chinnaswamy Stadium.
Yeah.
And so when it rains a lot in Chinnaswamy Stadium, there's hardly any moisture left on the ground. So I want to say the same thing,
right?
But I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, one thing's for certain: the pitch, I don't see it cracking like it would otherwise because of all the rain and the limited amount of play we'll have. But yeah.
You know, something else that we did want to touch upon is very interesting, Jadeja being picked, and this is something we talked about. Think about this, guys. All right, for a second, stop typing and think about this. Washington Sundar gets picked in the first test match because of whatever he did in India against New Zealand, I'm assuming, and the fact that he can also bat. Gets to bowl a couple of overs, doesn't perform in 2 innings, gets dropped because Ashwin gets picked for the pink ball test because of history. He has done well in pink ball test. Interestingly, also, Rohit Sharma comes back being as the captain. And in the third test match, in a ground where Washington Sundar has done well with the bat, he doesn't get picked. Ashwin gets dropped, and then Jadeja gets picked over both of them. So then why pick Washington Sundar in the first test in the first place?
I don't know. That's one selection that has kind of baffled me. Like, in some sense, we did know that Washi won't be playing this test match, I guess.
100%.
Yeah, like, but even Ashwin being dropped was a little, I don't know. So like, there definitely seems to be a little.
I'm fine with Jadeja being picked.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I think Jadeja is a good pick.
Why was he dropped in the first test?
Yeah, that's true.
It's just quite weird.
So Rohit will open this time. Ask Keshav. Think so. That's what the reports say.
That's what the reports say. But
let's see.
In the batting order, he still looked at number 5. So. They're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
It does feel a bit like that, at least with that one spinner spot.
Akash Deep was a good pick.
Akash Deep was a good pick. It was also warranted after Harshit Rana's performance in the second test.
Dorito69 asked, do you think this rain would help India, as it will be a good break for the bowlers to think about the bowling and maybe some extra movement through the air? Is what they expected in the first session. But first 13 overs. But
extra
didn't
movement.
Get much of that.
Yeah, there was not much. Yeah.
Smith,
I mean,
sorry, go on.
The thing is, so even in these overcast conditions, if this is all the swing you're going to get, then if the sun comes down, then this pitch is going to become a belter to bat on. And then India is in for a ride.
Yeah. Neeraj asks, this is the point I was also convinced with, like there's something like emotional connect for players. Are you talking about the Ashwin Sundar stuff? Will Rahul continue as opener for next WTC cycle? Maybe. I mean, that's not a bad shout.
Yeah,
possibly.
That could possibly happen. Yeah. Because also Rohit might or might not be there in the next WTC cycle. Right. So
Lakshmi says, isn't Smith overweight? I mean, I don't know.
Ian Smith, maybe. Steve Smith.
Sad. Shashwat says the last few overs before rain stopped, days play were pretty good for us though. One of the openers would have necked it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I think that's the only period where they looked like our bowlers looked very potent. Yeah. Especially Akash Deep, I think.
Yeah, Akash Deep looked really
well. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. So something to notice when these international players play is when Jasprit Bumrah, the first over of the game, he was over the wicket to Usman Khawaja, bowling it across. Yeah. And right after the first over and the third over when he came, as in his second over, but third over of the match, Jasprit Bumrah was around the wicket to Usman Khawaja. The couple of times that he's got Usman Khawaja nicked or out was around the wicket. And interestingly enough, Jasprit Bumrah to left-handers, when he comes over the wicket, his average is 27. And when he comes around the wicket, his average is 17.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
Which is also quite interesting because you would think if he's taking it across to a left-hander, it would be more difficult. Light. But then when you think of his action and the ball coming in and nipping out or straightening and all of that makes it more difficult. Where do you guys live in Bangalore? We live in this city.
We live in traffic-struck areas.
Skyplay, do you think this will be the last WTC cycle for Rohit, Ashwin and Virat?
For Ashwin, it might well be. I think Ashwin's the most likely to be phased out. I'm sure there'll be some communication around that.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I still think he's a handful at home and away as well, but it clearly seems like the team management is somewhat moving on from Ashwin.
Right.
Rohit, Kohli, I think a lot will depend on BGT. I think Kohli has extended his rope by getting that century. For Rohit, it'll be important what he does in the remainder of the games. So.
And Rohit will be,
Rohit's also older than Kohli. He's going to be 38 this year, if I'm not wrong. So, yeah.
That's true. Sydney draw is coming quite early. As in the draw that we needed? Or the draw that you think we'll have in Sydney? Is Sydney Boxing Day? Or is Sydney New Year's? I want to say Melbourne is Boxing Day. Ashwin and Jaddu can turn the match in any sort of pitch, and the most successful combo is Jaddu Ash. Why they didn't pick this combo? What's your opinion on that? Because you necessarily wouldn't go with two spinners on Australian grounds.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was surprised they didn't pick either or for the first test.
That's true, yeah.
Amit Ganguly, have a feeling India have weakened a bit in test because bowling is too reliant on Bumrah, but batters are not in form.
I think more than the bowling being too reliant on Bumrah, it is the batters who are not in form.
True.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also been the case in all of these test matches because even in the batters, you would usually have the lower order come and save the game, as was the case in home series. But in the New Zealand series, even the lower order batsmen did not come through, which is why we eventually lost. So I think it's more batting than the bowling itself.
Yeah. Lakshmi again asks, whose bowling attack do you think is better on flatter tracks in Australia? That's interesting.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think purely for the kind of matches and experience that the Australian attack has in Australia, they know all the pitches well. Based on that, Australia does have a well-rounded attack.
I mean, the fact that Scott Boland can perform the way he did and yet get dropped for Josh Hazlewood, who was the best bowler in the first test match, tells you just the depth of fast bowling that they have at the moment.
Yeah.
Sydney generally it happens to be a draw, especially in the last few matches there because of the weather and the pitch conditions. Yeah, that's true. It rains a lot in Sydney, so it raining in Gabba was a big surprise. I mean, I think if I'm not wrong, statistically, I think the last time it rained, as in there was a match-affected rain in Gabba between these two teams was 2003. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, that's true. It rains a lot in Sydney.
Yeah.
Shrikant, for next WTC cycle, who would be the captain? Don't see Rohit to be continuing the captaincy due to age and management acknowledging it. Ash and Rohit will be moved out, so captaincy change.
Honestly, Bumrah. I would like to see Bumrah be captain at least for the next WTC cycle. It doesn't feel like a stretch. Bumrah still has years ahead of him. He's in his prime.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't do well, it's okay.
I guess, you have to pick up captain and back him. He's got a win in Australia, so he would have done something right.
True.
So, yeah.
Dorito asks, do you think India can force a result at Sydney? Which is very, very interesting. I mean, they should be able to force a result wherever right now. Because if they're looking for the WTC final stuff, yes. If not, if they're just looking
need to win 3-1 or 4-1. So they can't let Australia win in any case. So,
Australia in comfortable position. One batsman played 47 and played 33 balls. Not so much swing.
Yeah,
that's true. KDP, you're spot on.
What is...
Sadakopa Ramakrishnan, you're very sorry I'm late. That's fine, dude.
We are also late.
Yeah, we are always late. Guys, why aren't the bowlers bowling to the stump? Ooh. I mean, Bumrah, I think, tried to bowl to the stump, but he was trained on the leg side. Siraj, see, to be fair, I honestly think the first 13 overs were fine.
Yeah.
The pitch was just good to bat on. There was not much swing to offer.
Yeah.
It was a good toss to lose for the Australians because they didn't have to make a decision.
That is true. Yeah.
Would you say the batting pair will have to start fresh considering the ball is still new? Yeah.
100%. I think batsmen for them to come out after any break will always be tougher than for the fielding side because as a batter you got to start again from scratch. It's like setting yourself up all over again. So
Anirudh asked, what do you think, what could the reason be for not much swing?
I think there's just not enough grass on the pitch, to be honest.
True. Yeah. And I don't think there's a lot of moisture in the air, even though it rained.
Yeah, even though it's humid, doesn't seem to be causing much swing.
One of that. Because, it was interesting to not extract a lot of swing.
Yeah.
Akash did get something or the other. Will conditions remain same on day 2? Conditions should remain the same on day 2.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people after India won the toss and chose to bowl, and after the 13 overs said that it was a good toss to lose for Australians because they just looked very solid. The pitch looked so good to bat on. I mean, there were a couple of misses, but you get that in Test cricket. We'll take a couple more questions and then we'll get on with our lives for the day and then hope for a better day tomorrow. Neela asks, Punt or Gill as next captain considering Bumrah can't play all Test matches in home or Asia? Of course he can. I mean,
he should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
especially
see a reason why he cannot.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're saying that because he's going to play all the Test matches and then all white ball matches and then you want to be able to get him rested, that's what they said about Pat Cummins when he took over the captaincy. So
he's done okay.
He's done fine. I mean, Bumrah can take that odd match. He can rest the odd match after winning the series, or like if the series is 1-1, and if it's a 5-match series and all of that. Maybe like if India is dominating, he can of course rest, but I don't see that a reason for why he shouldn't be the captain.
In the case that they don't go with Bumrah, Pant or Gill?
I don't know.
It's a very tricky one.
I wouldn't say either.
Why are your options?
No, I'll just give it to Bumrah. I don't think Pant's done enough to not. I mean, he is one of the best batters on the side, but I don't think he has. They haven't done anything with him in terms of captaincy, nor is he the vice captain
either.
Yeah, so like I don't see them grooming him as the next captain. Gill, he's the white ball vice captain, but in red ball, so
this is going to be tricky.
Do you think India should play Jadeja every test, irrespective of the pitch, as a batting all-rounder?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Based on recent form, I would say Jadeja can play as a batting all-rounder, but obviously, like, his bowling alone is a very good asset. He's a beast in the field.
Yes.
And I think Jaddu is more likely to take the pitch out of the equation amongst the other spinners in the game. So
that's true. But in the same pitch, if Australia bowl first, then ball swing much, is that skill difference? The thing is, if Australia did bowl first, they would have got a little, and this is just an assumption, they may have gotten a little more seam movement of the pitch because of the kind of bowlers that Josh Hazelwood and Pat Cummins are. They use the seam move. Like, you don't see Josh Hazelwood or Pat Cummins swing the ball a lot. You hardly see them. Mitchell Starc maybe would have gotten a little more swing
because his ball's fuller.
But the same way how Akash did. But if there was anything that the Australians would have gotten a bit more, I would say it's seam. But I don't think there would have been much of a difference. What's the reason behind Akash coming in and Harshit Rana going out?
Simply because Harshit Rana did not bowl well enough in the second match. That inexperience of Harshit Rana with the red ball or the pink ball in that case was showing. He was a bit all over the place. And just the general rule of thumb is if you have Bumrah or someone like that taking the wickets, holding up one end, you want the other bowler to also complement Bumrah. You want them to be able to at least choke runs if they're not getting wickets. And Akashdeep is a very consistent, good line and length bowler, which is why he eventually got picked.
True. I was curious to see who opens the bowling. I didn't think Bumrah would open the bowling, honestly. I thought it'll be Akashdeep and Siraj. We'll take last two questions and then we shall move along. KL Rahul is the next. Anitej asked KL Rahul as the next Test captain.
Could also be an option. He has captained India before.
Very
in
defensive.
Test cricket. Defensive.
Very,
that's
very
true.
Defensive.
But yeah.
Lakshmi Devi says Cummins was a gamble which turned out really well for Australia, but he will have to retire soon in comparison to a batsman captaining. I'll miss him when he retires. I don't think Cummins was a gamble. I mean, they were talking about Pat Cummins being the Test captain for a long while, even while Tim Paine was being the captain. Just because Tim Paine at that time wasn't in form and Pat Cummins was the best player in their squad. And there were a lot of talks about Pat Cummins being the captain, and after Tim Paine, whatever happened with him and he dropped off from captaincy, it was just an obvious thing to make Pat Cummins the captain. We'll take one last question. I missed out. Oh yeah, Hari Krishna. Hey, hi. Do you guys see any Kohli-like fiery captain in the Indian team currently?
Fiery captain?
Attitude-wise, maybe not.
At least not on the outside of the field.
Yeah.
So probably not. But I'm sure the kids playing for India have that fire in them. So
exactly. Let's now go to what happens tomorrow if it doesn't rain and if it's all well and good. Wonder Down Under. What should India do tomorrow?
India should just look to ball the way they have today. Probably a tad fuller. Try and extract and make the best use of whatever conditions they have. The only thing that India can hope for is that there's a little more swing and seam for them on offer tomorrow. They'll just want to ball a bit fuller. I think they did most things right today. They made sure that they were balling the right lines and lengths. They'll just have to make sure that they keep doing that so that the game doesn't run away, because the pitch looks like a belter. If it gets better and if Australia get away in the first innings, then it's going to be very tough for India to come back. So, yeah.
And so that's what India should do tomorrow. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Even though we didn't have any day of test cricket, we would love to talk to you and have this going on for hours and hours. But if we don't keep it short every day, then a lot of people will just stop joining us. Yeah, so tomorrow seems I want to say exciting. I hope there's a game of cricket.
Yeah.
If there's a whole day of cricket, this is how we're going to go. The match starts at 5:50, but there were talks of starting early, so we will
for the remainder of the days.
Yeah, so we will see when the match does start. And so we will have a recap of the first session, just because it's 5 in the morning. Not everyone wakes up at 5 in the morning. So if you do miss out on the first session, we will come back. Hey, Cricket with Kaustubh. Hello there.
Hello.
So yeah, we will come back and we will do a small recap of how the first session went about, and then we will have the normal segments, the positives, negatives, and what should India do better tomorrow.
Shrikant says same time tomorrow, but 5 minutes late. You heard it.
If not an hour later, like 1:30. Yeah. We want to do this at 1:30 p.m. IST, but if
depending on how the day goes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for always supporting us and doing all of this. If you guys do enjoy this, share it with your friends and share it wherever. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you haven't checked out our video of how to get Travis Head out, do that too.
Do that, yeah.
Thank you so much for watching.
Peace.